here's Brody Brazil.
You know, the topic and the story of this video, I do believe, are very important. But it's also something I don't think you're going to see covered on a lot of other YouTube channels because they are sponsored by sports betting entities, those same ones that Major League Baseball players are starting to have a little bit of concern with and fear towards because of what it does to the fan and player relationship. When bets are placed and they don't go well, and they're very personal bets, they're prop bets, the fans and players have some awkward interactions to the point where it's starting to concern Major League Baseball players. They're not exactly speaking out on this with their names and faces, but if you ask them anonymously, like The Athletic did, which we'll get into in just a second, there are growing concerns among Major League Baseball players for the amounts of bets, the types of bets, and again, the results that happen when the bets don't go well. To simplify all of this, and I don't think what I'm about to show you here is anything new or scientific that you can't understand or didn't expect, sports betting is easier to access than ever. It's on your phone, it's in your pocket, it's pushed at you in states where it's legal all the time, on a broadcast, in stadium, you name it, social media, it's everywhere. Access to this is easier than ever. So wagers can now be very player specific. You're no longer betting on a game one way or the other. It's a game plus several other things, and if a certain player does or doesn't do something that you hoped or expected, then you might have certain frustrations about that player's performance. But you might also take it out on that player, which doesn't seem right. Player interactions are also easier to access than ever before. What do I mean by that? Obviously, here on social media, it doesn't take much to almost have the effect of texting a player. You realize that if you're sending a tweet, hypothetically, or any type of message that tags, like on Instagram, tags the human who you're talking about, there's a likely chance that they or somebody close to them, a spouse, a significant other, a relative, a sibling, might be also reading it too. Player interactions, getting things back to players through their Venmo, which we'll talk about in a second, it's easier than ever before. So you add all these things up, plus maybe the cost of living and inflation, and people are more stressed out by money now than they ever have been in recent times. You add all this together, and there's a lot of inherent tension about where sports betting is going specifically to baseball. So this is The Athletic, great publication. They do these fantastic anonymous player polls, not only in Major League Baseball, but I've seen them do it in hockey as well, too. They always do it before seasons begin and into the beginning of a season. They talk to 135 big league players across 21 different teams. They did this between February and May of this year, and anonymity was granted. Like, that's something that The Athletic typically wants on the record, right? Like, if we're going to put this out there, we need names and faces behind this. But because they wanted the real answers, they talked to so many different people. I realize there are thousands of big league and professional baseball players, but even 135 across 21 teams, that is a good cross-section to ask a lot of questions. Questions like this: has legalized sports betting changed how fans treat you or your teammates? Now, I'm just showing you the pie chart here. You have no idea what the responses are going to be. I'll instantly give you this one. 9.8% said, I'm not sure. I don't have a read or a feeling on this one way or another. That's fine, right? So let's call it 10% said, I'm not sure. What do you think that big slice is? And what do you think that much smaller slice is? I'll give you the small slice. No. 12% said legalized sports betting has not changed how fans treat you or your teammates. That means 78%, say that legalized sports betting has changed how fans treat you, a Major League Baseball player, or your teammates. And I'm going to guess that it's not mostly complimentary. Two things about this. Has it changed how they treat you? Well, in what way? Obviously not a good way. And 78%. This isn't 50-50, not 60-40, not 70-30. It's basically 80-20. That's a lot. That's significant, and these players talked about it. And these quotes, which I'm going to kind of rip through here because there's a lot of them, but they're all so important, and they're also telling and almost like chilling what players are actually saying on the record, not with their names attached, but what they're saying, what they want out there in the world to understand the effect that this is having. A National League All-Star pitcher said, quote, as a starting pitcher, you go to warm up and it's all people hanging over the fence. I've got you on the over, they say. You try and tune them out, but that's not my focus. But you hear that stuff, and you're very aware of what your over-under is for the day in strikeouts. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, if you're a professional, you should be able to shake that off, or it shouldn't matter to you or mean much to you. Look, baseball players are human. Baseball is, 90-something% mental. This is something mentally that could throw you off. It's a very specific comment and something that might get in an all-star major league pitcher's head. A 7-year major league veteran player said, quote, "My fear is that these young guys coming in, if a gambler can manipulate them, I don't want to ever see that happen." Well, what is that all about? A major league baseball player coming into the show might only on that first contract be making, only I say, $700,000, $800,000 a year. What if somebody who wants to manipulate a game or a performance comes in and buys out the player and says, $700,000, I'll give you $7 million to do this? I mean, we're going back to throwing games or throwing situations, or it's not even throwing games, right? It's dictating what can and cannot happen during a game because of a prop bet. It's not the team winning or losing anymore. The bets are so specific, they can rely instantly on just what the player is actually doing. So they're even concerned at that level, the integrity of the game level. Going back to this, a veteran Major League Baseball relief pitcher said, quote, "I've received something as simple as a Venmo request with a thread on it that says, quote, 'You owe me $9,000 because you blew the game. I need you to send me that money or I'm going to find your family.'" That's too far. You've communicated as players to Major League Baseball security that we need to get a handle on this before it gets out of control. I don't want to say this, but something bad is going to happen, and it's going to be like, "We told you so," Major League Baseball. That's pretty concerning. Like, you've felt that before about something. Like, when you know something is going so wrong, you have that instinct, and you're saying, "I'm going to be able to tell you I told you so on this eventually." That is a haunting feeling to have that inside and to think that that might actually occur. Something like that might get followed through on someday. Not great. A veteran big league outfielder said, quote, "It's the worst thing that's happened to the game since I've been up here. I think it's only going to get worse because of how popular it is, sports betting. There are ways to bet pitch by pitch in the stadium during the game. I'll be in Wrigley in center field and have people telling me they're going to put money on me to hit a home run at the next at-bat. I don't need to know that. It's a problem. And unfortunately, they're not going to change it because there's too much money in it." Now, granted, everything else that was said here, I agree. It's fine. Fans getting in your head, a new way to rattle you. But it's this bottom part here that's the most true. They're not going to change it because there's too much money in it, right? There's no going back on the way things are with legal sports betting and baseball, or any sport, honestly, right now, but especially baseball. An American League pitcher said, quote, "It's hostile at weird times. It used to be, if you win or lose the game, fans are happy or sad." That's what I was saying before, right? That was a little bit more generic, a little bit less specific. Now it's like if you don't cover, they're sad. Or if you give up a run in the first inning, because that might be a prop bet, they're sad. Or if you throw a fastball instead of a curveball, they're sad. And I don't know if the word sad here is supposed to be transposed over angry or frustrated, but I think that's part of it too. An American League reliever says, "I think there's going to be a security risk or personnel risk. Somebody's going to lose a bunch of money and track down somebody in a parking lot, especially if the A's end up moving to Vegas. With the live betting, it could get pretty serious." I mean, I said before, baseball wasn't changing its ways. Now baseball is planning on going somewhere that is the betting capital of the world, or at least the United States, or one of them in the world. I mean, this is a legitimate concern among players, the trend, where this is going, what they're seeing, the feedback they're getting. I know. Baseball's aware of this. Baseball has a security department. Baseball's probably hearing from some of these players, but players are still talking as if they're concerned, and it's not under control necessarily. An American League Eastern Division pitcher said, quote, "Every man that I know," obviously not baseball players on baseball, but baseball players are gambling on other sports whenever they can. It's easy, it's fun, whatever. You don't have to travel to Vegas to go to a sports book like it's, 2010. It's insane. The obsession with gambling is wild. People watch sports now, and it's all about the gambling. It's not about who wins the game anymore. Well, unless maybe that's your bet. That's also a very applicable take, at least from my perspective. I totally agree with that. And I think this is the last one here. A National League catcher said, sports betting the way it is now, needs to be abolished. It brought more fans to the games the wrong way. I don't know. I mean, I think it gets fans interested in things they normally wouldn't be, but here's somebody who lives it, breathes it, eats it, sleeps it from the inside. And this is their perspective on it. Maybe there's another way about it. Maybe that's their perspective. Here's my takeaways, and I'll actually begin with a similar situation in the NBA. And I think basketball players might even have it worse because of sports betting. They've also complained to publications like The Athletic. There's a lot of quotes out there about how they've been mistreated, they say, by fans over bets that didn't go well. It's because of the proximity of basketball players and fans. There is no fence. There is no barrier necessarily in basketball. Like at least baseball players on the field yelling and screaming and shouting, okay, but it's from a further distance and there is a physical barrier and somebody has to hop that barrier for something bad to happen. In basketball, there is no barrier and the players are so much closer and they hear so many more things. And there's fewer players, so maybe more bets on fewer players means a more heavier concentration. Again, I'm not saying that, baseball players need to be put in line and have perspective here. I'm just saying for as bad as baseball players are telling you it is, I think basketball players might even have this worse for a lot of different reasons. I also think that the amount of feedback and amount of awkward, interactions, was that a quote there? The hostile stuff, the weird hostile stuff, I feel like most of it is probably on a device, on the internet, on a phone, you name it, because I think the in-person stuff is probably a tiny sample because a lot of people feel bold and strong and they'll say whatever on a keyboard, but they won't do it in person. So I would imagine, and I'm just taking this away here, that of all the stuff that bothers these players, most of it happens online. Well, then most of it could and should be traceable, trackable, maybe even preventable, you'd have to hope someday. Major League Baseball, in my opinion, they might do some things. They might circumvent some things. They might try some solutions, but I don't think they're going to introduce drastic change. As in, we don't do prop bets anymore. No. That's not, and I'm not saying baseball's doing that. I'm saying baseball could stop its, partners from doing that. They won't do that. They're not changing anything. If anything, they're only trying to amplify the direction that this is going. Baseball's not changing anything wholesale. So the question remains, can a bunch of small things, small changes, make these players feel more comfortable? And my fear in all of this, and players talked about this, I'll add on to it at a different place and a different perspective here. My fear is the volume of years and time of this. Like we're just scratching the surface, the beginning of sports betting legally across states in our country. It's not even legal in all states, and it's only been legal for a handful of years, even in the earliest states. We're just starting to realize the duration of this. And if it goes on for years and decades, and it only amplifies for years and decades, my fear are some of the worst case scenarios that I won't even mention here, that you can probably imagine here. Over time, some of those worst case scenarios just might play out because we've had so much of a volume of sports betting and people and situations and time and opportunity for this to happen. And for me, it's only going to take one dummy, one stupid thing happening in real life to make us all feel absolutely terrible about all of this. Players are concerned. I think normally Major League Baseball players look in a mirror and say, you know what, I'm going to bite my lip. I'm going to suck it up. I'm not going to talk about this. But I thought, of all the different things, and by the way, that player poll, it talked about a lot of different things in Major League Baseball, talked about a lot of different topics and situations. But this is one where players obviously feel pretty unified and strong about their concern over the direction that all of this is going. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'm sure I should say this too, I hope you've watched long enough to stay around for this part of the video. I'm sure there are a lot of responsible sports bettors out there who just do it for fun. It's something that amplifies your love of the game, whatever. I'm not here to knock that. I'm not here to knock FanDuel, DraftKings, bet whoever, you name it. That's not it. But there's enough people, because so many people are doing this, there's a small enough sample size that it's causing problems somewhere, right? So how can we now at least look at that or address that? Comments down below, I'd appreciate that. Thumbs up down below, really appreciate that. Helps me, the video, and the channel. Also, don't forget to smash that subscribe button below. I'd love to see you back here next time.